and other affected persons. So under this principle, no Ifa or Orisha practitioner shall engage in violence, wickedness, and any act of terrorism. A practitioner must not think or plan evil against a fellow Ifa practitioner and any other person of the public. So that, as far as the first principle, which is beneficence, do good and do no harm. The second principle is has to do with fidelity and responsibility. This principle reflects faithfulness within the Ifa and Orisha community and of a practitioner to a client, as stated in Oturagasa, which is Oturaosa. Such faithfulness includes promise keeping, discharge and acceptance of fiduciary responsibilities, and appropriate maintenance of human relations. It is the responsibility of Ifa and Orisha practitioners to obtain the required skills and knowledge and maintain high standards of competence in their own work, as stated in Obara Irete, and be concerned about the ethical compliance of their colleagues. So competence in this regard means that there must be proper training under a competent Babalawo or accredited Ifa college institutions and graduated before commencement to practice Ifa. This one, we have seen some people who think that by virtue of their Ifa initiation that they have become a Babalawo. So this is telling us that that's not how it is. You need to undergo a specific training under a competent Babalawo or accredited Ifa colleges and institutions. And a practitioner must maintain and improve their competence and expertise through lifelong education and training. Sometimes when you, after you are graduated, what is done in Yoruba land in Nigeria is that even though you have graduated and you now have the commencement to start to practice Ifa, in the course of your practice, you are still expected to continue to learn, because Ifa, learning is a lifelong process, and you have to continue to learn. And we do this, through as Ifa associations or meetings. Whenever we have meetings, we always exchange ideas, and by so doing, you learn. Or you can also choose another Baba Ifa apart from your Olu. You can still choose another Baba Ifa to continue to learn from him. So that is why they say that practitioner must maintain and improve their competence, because by so doing, you are improving your competence, you are improving your expertise, and then you will be able to learn the challenges being faced by this Babalawo, by that Babalawo, and how they have been able to resolve those challenges. So going through Ifa initiation, like I said before, does not automatically confer on an initiate the title of a Babalawo. It does not permit them to practice as a Babalawo or Yanifa without first going through the training. And then there's also something that some Babalawos do, which is not ethical. I've seen some people who were initiated into Ifa, and in addition to their Ifa, they give them Okpele. I don't know why it is so. Even if Ifa says that that person is to be a Babalawo, you are not supposed to give him Okpele. The person will now have to start to undergo training. And so they are saying here that no Oluwo must give a consecrated okpele to a new initiate who is not qualified, who is not a qualified babalawo. So what is accepted in that regard? What is accepted in that regard is a practicing okpele. There's this kind of mock okpele that we call okpele kalagba, that is made out of calabash, broken calabash. They string it together, so you can use that to practice, or you can also devise another alternative. Because a consecrated okpele, once you throw it, it invites the force is the energy. And if you are such a person who did not undergo any training, how will you know how to deal with those forces? So it's not even in the best interest of that person to use consecrated okpele and just to be throwing it anyhow. So this is very, very wrong. This principle also reflects openness and carefulness on the part of Ifa and Orisha devotees and practitioners worldwide. A practitioner must strive to share knowledge, ideas, tools, and resources within the Ifa and Orisha group and be open to criticisms and new ideas. Here again, there are some babalaos that are not open to criticism. There is no how you can, because nobody is perfect. Everybody is bound to make a mistake. And then when you're doing things either by ignorance, by omission or commission, and you see a fellow owl pointing, out that, observation, saying that you have done this, you have done that. It is for you to take to that criticism. The criticism is not really an attack on anybody. It's just for you to be able to reevaluate yourself and see, whether what you're doing is right or wrong. It may even make you to improve further in your practice. So they need to be open to criticisms and new ideas. They must avoid careless or avoidable errors and negligence. So a person who is not open to criticism, who is not open to correction, of course, there is that tendency for that person to commit errors and then negligence in the course of his practice. So, Ifa devotees must try to examine their spiritual work carefully and critically in relation to that of other Ifa and Orisha practitioners and the ethics of the practice as stated in Osai Woi. In Osai Woi, Ifa advises us to always examine issues or matters from different angles. That is why it says, Osa wo, Iwori wo, Osa examines, and Iwori also examines. That whatever we examine together is bound to be perfect. So that is what we're saying here, that we need to examine our works carefully and critically in relation to the other Ifa Orisha practitioners. A Babalawo can also seek the assistance of Ifa practitioners in handling specific spiritual issues, as we have been told in Otura Obara. That is to ensure the client's spiritual well-being as stipulated in the above principle 1, beneficence and non-maleficence. In Otura Obara, there is a story of Otura and Obara. Otura specializes in Ifa divination. Obara specializes in medicine, herbal medicine. They are both proficients in their various fields. So they now decided to go to the land of Kishi to seek greener pastures and on a spiritual mission. So they cast Ifa And if I was telling them that where you're going, there is tendency for you to be successful, but you need to cooperate and show love to one another. They were saying that, I mean, we've been friends for so long, we've been colleagues for so long. I mean, we are always cooperating, so why the need? So they did not offer that ever. And they now went to the land of Kishi. So what happened was that when a client comes for, let's say, goes to Otura, who specializes in IFA divination, when a client comes for issues relating to disease, infections, that they need to use medicine, herbal medicine, of which Otura is not that knowledgeable enough. So instead of Otura to refer the person, the client, to Obara, just tell the client that in fact, I don't even know if there's anybody around there that can do that. The client, kept asking, is there any other person that can help me? I don't think there's any. I don't know any other person in this land. So now we'll go away. By Obara, a client comes seeking IFA divination. He doesn't know IFA divination. What he knows is about medicine. Instead of him to refer the client to Otura, he just tell the person that he doesn't know where anybody that practices that divination. So they have been doing this for so long, and they were not able to make ends meet. The money that is supposed to come to Otura will go to another person. The money that is supposed to go to Obara will go to another person. So they have been doing this for so long, and they went back to their original town to now check again what exactly was the problem. And they testify again, it was Otura Obara that came out, and they told them that you still need to abide by the advice given to you by IFA. That there must be cooperation, there must be assistance, you must be able to seek assistance of each other. So they offered that and went back. And then so whenever any client comes for divination by Obara, they will refer the clients to Otura and vice versa. So that was how they were able to succeed in the land of Kishi. So it is the social responsibility of a practitioner to promote social good and interpersonal relationships within IFA and Orisha gatherings or fellowships to engender peace and tranquility. So that's as far as fidelity and responsibility is concerned. Then the third principle is integrity. This principle reflects the maintenance of integrity in spiritual activities. Integrity upholds iwapele, that is gentle, good character, as the foundation of all behavior. A devotee must honor the sacred rites, rituals, and teachings of Ifa and Orisha without distortion for personal gain. In this case, it requires honest communication, truth-telling, agreements and promise-keeping, and accuracy in interpreting Ifa Orisha messages through their various means of divination. Integrity also involves refraining from making professional commitments that they cannot meet. There are some babalawos that are not competent to do certain things. And instead of them to refer or call on their colleagues for assistance, they collect money from the clients, and then since they don't have any knowledge, they just do whatever they can, and then the clients will continue to have the same problem. So that is part of what IFA is saying about integrity. we must refrain from making professional commitments that we cannot meet. So under this principle, practitioners do not steal, cheat, or engage in fraud or scam, as we are told in the verse of Ofu Ogunda, Ogbiosa, Ogunda Bede, Oturarete, and so on and so forth. The role models or orishas used to operate with honesty and integrity in accordance with natural and ethical principles of practice. A typical example of an ethical principle, like I said before in one of our previous lectures, is that a typical example of an ethical principle is when Iku, which is death, ceases to take someone's life or head because he has taken the person's head once, even though it is discovered in the end that it was the wrong head, either by ignorance or whatever. So in nature or in the ethical practice, ignorance is no excuse. So according to the ethics of operation, once he has taken the head once at a particular time and context, he cannot take it twice. The Yamis too, once they have taken their equity, the offerings that we normally make for the Yamis, once they have accepted it, they cannot harm you anymore. If they do, it is considered a breach of ethics. A practitioner must strive for honesty, report exact IFA's messages, and not falsify messages of IFA or misrepresent a fact regardless of their situation. We have heard of some babalawos that they have specific odus, that when the client comes, it's always that odu. They will cast for that person. It's always that odu. And it will reveal the same message. It will always come with Iku every time. Even when other clients come, it's the same message. So this is really against the ethics of IFA. It's a way of misrepresenting facts. And IFA is saying that regardless of your situation, even when you need money, when you are in dire need, there is a way you can do it without really falsifying facts. So, IFA and Orisha devotees must protect the sanctity of divination, sacrifices, and initiations. There are some people who, when it comes to initiations, instead of them to use the required number of babalawos, we have heard of some people that either one or two babalawos were present at that IFA initiation, which is ethically wrong because there are various functions to be performed by various officials of babalawos. So you as the Oluwo, it is not possible for you to play the role of Oluwo and play the role of Ojbono and play the roles of Iyanifa and play the roles of other officials that are supposed to be there. There is also another instance of this kind of fraudulent act. When I went to Mexico, some people reported to me that there's something going on in some quarters. That when a client comes and they divine for a client, and then IFA prescribes materials in form of goats, chickens, and so on and so forth. So they'll buy that and then offer the ebo. They'll pluck the feathers on the ebo, cut the hair of the goat on the ebo, and will return those materials. They have a cage at the backyard. They will return those animals there. So after offering the ebo for that person, then few days after, if another client comes and IFA prescribes materials, of course they will charge that person. Instead of them to go and buy new materials for that person, they are going to use the material they had already used for somebody before, which is very, very ethically wrong in IFA, as we were told in Worimeji, that once you have used the material for somebody before, you cannot use it for another person. But in a situation where you have group or association doing divination, like you have your group, then you do divination for that group. So all the materials used, of course, are for everybody in that group. But in case somebody comes, he has already offered his elbow and gone. And now another person comes, we are using the same materials. So what happened in the Worimeji was that there was this Akapo. The Akapo is an Ifa priest, Oromila's devotee. He's been doing this, exactly what I said they were doing in Mexico. But in this case, whenever Ifa asked him to feed his Ifa with either a rooster, a hen, or a she-goat, he would go and use the ones that he had already used for some people, for sacrifice for some people before, and we use that to feed his own Ifa. So anytime he's doing this, every time, once he offers the animals to Ifa, Orunmila sees the destiny, the head, the ori of the original person who offered that ebo. That is what Orunmila is saying. And Orunmila will bless whoever that brings the material. So he's been doing this for so long and never got well, financially. And, he's been, grumbling and saying that, Orunmila, I have served you for so long. I'm doing this. Whatever you ask me to bring, I'll give you. Why is it that you're not blessing me? So he now decided to go to Olodumare to report Orunmila that this is what Orunmila has been doing, despite the fact that he has served Orunmila, despite the fact that he has been doing everything that Orunmila wanted him to do. Yet, he's not blessing him. Rather, he's blessing others. So, Olodumare, how can Orunmila do this? Something must be wrong. And Olodumare now sent for Orunmila. So when Orunmila came, Olodumare now told Orunmila that this your Akapo is here to report you here. This is, and then asked the Akapo to repeat what he had told him. So he said, then Olodumare now said, Orunmila, what do you have to say to this? Then Orunmila said, of course, yes, he has served me, yes, and then anytime, those animals you are using, are they really yours? They said, I just can't allow the animals to waste like that. So anytime, Orunmila asks me, so I use that. You see? You are the cause of your problem. So Olodumare said that, what if I had not called Orunmila and I had judged Orunmila based on the report you have given me, which means I'm a wicked person. So that's why Olodumare now said that for us to even make any judgment, you have to consider all sides of the story. You cannot hear just one side and then start to, pronounce judgment. So it is very wrong. So this is exactly what, we're trying to say here about the ethical principle that IFA Orisa devotees must protect the sanctity of divination, sacrifices, and initiations. They must not deceive the client, colleagues, or the public. A devotee must be consistent and sincere in thought and action, and must speak all those words that are found to be the same as it was spoken after being verified. When you say something and after they have gone to verify that thing, it must be found to be the same thing. That is when you are telling the truth. On integrity, in the verse of Obiosa, Ifa says that if an awo or devotee is not sincere, such behavior will adversely affect his or her calling in the practice of Ifa and Orisha. Such a devotee will make people lose respect for Ifa and Orisha, and which is what is happening. Because when they do those things, they are not only denting their image, they are denting the image of the whole Ifa and Orisha community. And people will now start to look at us negatively. So Ifa says that such a devotee will live and die as a cursed and wretched person. This is a commandment from Ifa. So all those people who are doing that, they have their judgment waiting for them. So in Ogbisa, Ifa says, bí ojú bá ń pọ́n babaláwo, kí babaláwo má purọ́. Bí ojú bá ń pọ́n oníṣègùn má ṣèrà, kẹ́ni má ṣèké, ṣèrà nítorí àti sùn. Meaning, if a babalawo is in grave want, let him not lie. Of course, you can have financial difficulties. That does not mean that you have to lie to your clients. If a herbalist is in dire need, let him not be dishonest. Let no one lie or display dishonesty, because of accountability whenever they die. There is an accountability for anyone who displays dishonesty in the practice of his profession. So to have integrity is to imbibe the virtues of honesty. Ifa says that eke osuwon le fa odale osuwon lese ope. This means that dishonesty and betrayal are not allowed in the domain of Ifa practice, as we are told in Ofuepo, that is Ofun Ogunda and Ogbefun. If you belong to Ifa and Orisha spirituality or community, dishonesty and betrayal are not allowed. If you do that, you're doing that at your own risk. So in Ogbefun, I'm going to recite the English translation. The room does not have a crack inside, and the wall does not open outside. When we discuss quietly at home, who went outside to leak our secrets? What if I say there is that you showed me something earlier today about what somebody posted on Facebook that says that we will know, which means as an owl, your mouth is supposed to be sealed. You cannot just open your mouth and just utter anything. You need to really, unless of course there is a need for you to talk. So here they are talking about things discussed in the house. How come it becomes public knowledge? That is not the true virtue of being an owl. Whatever we discuss here, unless what we want people to know, that's what they know. There are some people that they cannot do without betrayal. The people will discuss something and the next minute it becomes public knowledge. That is what Ogbefun is talking about here, about dishonesty and betrayal. These were the declarations of Ifa to Orunmila when he and Orishanla were to mold human beings in the very dawn of life. The big rat has now been exposed. The treacherous being has been captured. It is now that our epoch are answered. The big rat has been exposed. The treasurer's bin has been captured. We shall use its neck bone as a tool. I explained this at the last lecture when Oromila, Ogun, Obatala, or Shosi issue. They were molding human beings in an enclave that has no windows. So they discovered that why they were molding human beings, because it was issue that went to get the sand that was used to mold. It was Ogun that cast the skeleton, that stands as armature for, as a frame for that figure. And it was Oshosi that designed, that did the artwork, that drew how the figure is going to look like. And it was Oromila that was guiding them with wisdom through IFA consultation from time to time. And it was Obatala that was now molding, the figure. So they discovered that they will get to a point by night time they'll go home and come back the following. By the time they come back the following day, the whole thing has collapsed. Not knowing that Okete, which is the big rat here, was sent by the Yamis and other negativities to go and spy what they were doing. So Okete will burrow the earth and will now come out inside that small conclave. So Okete has been spying, and whatever they are doing, Okete will go back and report to them. So now they say, what are we going to do? It's like we're just, embarking on fruitless, project. So Oromila testified, and the phone was revealed. And they told Oromila to use a long staff, like that Osu. I don't know if like that Osu staff that has the sharp pointed tip. That whenever they are doing the molding, Oromila should be hitting the ground with that all over. So Okete was hiding as usual, but unfortunately did not know what they were doing, and all of a sudden that staff just hit Okete on the head, and it pierced the head through. So by the time Oromila brought out the staff from the ground and it came out with Okete, and he said, "Ha, Okete, you are the traitor here." So that is why they say that the treasurers has been captured. It is now that our ego are answered. So after that, onwards, they were able to successfully complete their project. So what Ifa is saying is that whoever that is doing that will always receive the consequences from Ifa. So betrayal also means amoral or sexual relationships with a member's spouse. In any gathering of our, you cannot sleep with your fellow member's wife. No matter how beautiful she is, she's not your wife. As long as you are in the same gathering, you cannot. See, that is why in the olden days in Yoruba land, as we are sitting right here, if Awoso Miss wife, was here before, and I just came, I knew that she was there before, I cannot sit on that seat that his wife was sitting before. It's a taboo, and it's ethically wrong for me to do that, because we all exude energies like aura that come out, anywhere we are. So they believe that her aura is still there. So for me now to go there, it's tantamount to having sexual relationships with her. So that's why they always say that that is, you must not have carnal knowledge of your fellow members well. It's very wrong in Ifa and Orisha community. In addition to the disciplinary measures that the organization will take against such an erring member, Ifa also has a way of punishing such a person. In Okonroturukmo, Ifa says, I'm going to read the English translation. Liars will never admit they are liars. The wicked will never admit that they are evil. You steal items in the market and hide them behind. If people in the front don't see you, what about the people behind? This was the message of Ifa for Olokon, who was having a sexual relationship with his Oluwo's wife. Who is Olokon being referred to? It is Olokon, who has a genital infection and lost his life in the process. So, in this case, Olokon was secretly having sexual relationships with the wife of his Oluwo. You can imagine such an affront for you. Don't even have any respect for your Oluwo. And then likewise, the Oluwo cannot also have sexual relationships with the wife of his Omoawo. So that also is ethically wrong in the Ifa and Orisha community. There's also another example of betrayal in Oturagasa. I'm going to read this again. It is improper to offend or take advantage of others based on their position and capacity. The message of Ifa was declared for Ketekete, the donkey, and also declared for Akuko, the rooster. Both of them put money together to purchase genitals. They were advised to offer Ebo. Akuko then cried out that that his donkey gave him a small genital. So let me briefly narrate the story here. So in this stanza of Oturagasa, Ketekete, which is a donkey, we all know what a donkey is. And then and Akuko, the rooster, they were friends. So one day, they decided to go to the market to purchase genitals because at that point in time, they did not have any genital. That is, the male genital organ. They didn't have that. So, donkey then volunteered to go to the market on their behalf to purchase the genitals. Rooster had 8 cowries, while donkey had only 1 cowrie. Because rooster gave donkey 8 cowries, I want you to use these cowries to buy a very big genital for me. But on the other hand, donkey didn't have much money, he only had 1 cowrie. So he now told Akuko, the rooster, that don't worry, I can go to the market on your behalf, I can buy it for you and bring it. So, on getting to the market, donkey bought the genitals and saw that the one for the rooster that was bought with 8 cowries was much bigger than his own. Of course, it has to be. So, bigger than his own, which he bought for just 1 cowrie. So consequently, he put the bigger one on himself and his genitals became big. And on getting back home, he gave the smaller one to the rooster. The rooster then checked the genitals donkey. What? Is this what 8 cowries it could buy? So small, so little? Let me see your own. And checked the donkey's genital and saw that it was big. And so he now cried that donkey had really betrayed him. So he then wondered why his own was so small. despite the fact that his money was much more than the donkey's. He then discovered that donkey had actually betrayed him. So Rooster cried to Ifa for redress, and as a result, Ifa caused the donkey that for doing this, he would always be a slave to humans and would be carrying their children on his back. So in this context, there are times when we are being entrusted with certain responsibilities by virtue of our membership or official positions. And it is necessary for us to discharge our responsibilities selflessly, in good faith, without fear or favor. So that is why you can see that when you see a rooster, you will hardly even see the genital of a rooster. That is because of the betrayal that donkey had done against him. So Ifa is warning us to desist from this. So that falls under, it still falls under integrity. Yeah. So the fourth principle has to do with respect for people's rights, confidentiality, and dignity. This principle calls for practitioners to respect the dignity and worth of all people and the rights of individuals to privacy, confidentiality, and intellectual property. A practitioner must strive to protect confidential Ifa and Orisha divinations or readings of their clients and other confidential communications. There are some babalawos that cannot, just like I said earlier, that we will know you must keep sealed lips. A client that has come to you for a problem, and it's because of the trust that the client has in you. That's why the client is able to pour out all his problems to you for solution. And when you now do the readings and if I says this or this and that, it is very wrong for that babalawo to now divulge that information to another person. It's a breach of confidentiality, which Ifa frowns at. They must strive to be humble at all times, as demonstrated by Oromila Baraboniregu. Practitioners must respect their colleagues and elders, especially. They must acknowledge their presence and treat them fairly. Due reverence, which is Iba, and acknowledgement must be given where necessary. Iba also refers to the due reverence given to our predecessors and ancestors before any ritual or ceremony is initiated, as we're told in Owonimeji. You need to acknowledge and respect the elders in our midst. You also need to acknowledge and respect the predecessors that have come before you and your ancestors. And this is what Oromila did during the planning for the earth for habitation of human beings. Because at that time, Olodumare first sent Obatala to go and plan the earth for human habitation. And when Obatala was coming, Obatala came with his entourage. And getting to that point where they were about to plan the earth, Obatala was feeding his entourage with water. No, it was Ogun that was first sent. It was Ogun. So when Ogun was coming, was feeding his entourage with wood. And because they could not survive on wood for so long, they were not able to accomplish the mission. Ogun and his entourage went back to Olodumare, but they were not able to accomplish the mission. And then asked Obatala to now go and see what he can do. Obatala also came with his entourage and was feeding his entourage with water. But because they could not survive on water for so long, they were not able to accomplish the mission. So they also went back. So Oludumare now sent Oromila this assignment that I've sent 2 people and they were not able to accomplish. I want you to go and do it. So Oromila now went to a set of Babalawo. They called them Agbadudu Orimo. And they were the ones who told Oromila that when you're going to the earth with your entourage, go along with seeds and seedlings, things that you can, that when you get to the earth, the first thing you're going to do is to plant those seeds there. So Oromila offered that and they came with the seeds. So as soon as they got to that point again, Oromila acknowledged Ogun being the first one to chart that path and was also feeding his entourage with wood. So Oromila started feeding the entourage with water. And then after, he also acknowledged Obatala for what Obatala was also using to feed his entourage. So after wood, then he would give them water. So they were doing this. Then by the time they got tired, what they had planted had started germinating and bearing fruits. So they were able to eat that, and that took them, that now sustained them throughout the time when they were doing the planting. So they were able to accomplish that mission. So you can see that Oromila also, he did not say because the person who has come before me did not accomplish this mission. So he had to give Iba, reverence to Obatala. And when you do this, it helps a lot. It helps a lot. You receive divine blessings from the ancestors. So this means that respect must be accorded to the elders in spiritual matters, recognizing their role as custodians of wisdom. It is expected of Ifa and Orisha devotees to show humility and respect where necessary and avoid public disrespect, gossip, or dishonor towards elders or leaders. In Irete Iwuri, Ifa shuns disrespect and admonishes whoever snubs and shows a lack of recognition to others. It is a bad habit, especially for the followers of Ifa and Orisha, not to show respect to others. Ifa describes one who cultivates such a habit as a worthless person. That is the language that Ifa used in that particular Ifa. And I'm going to recite it. That anybody that cultivates a habit of not showing respect and humility or recognition to others, that person is a worthless person. So this is what the verse says. Egun, the masquerade, enters and pays no attention to Gonto. Gonto also decides to show a lack of recognition to Egungun. Whoever disregards other people, such a person deserves no recognition. These were Ifa's messages for Oromila when going on a spiritual mission to the land of Asha. He was advised to offer Ebo. He complied. Behold, if you see them, do examine them very well. The inhabitants of Asha mainland are worthless people, because that exactly was what they did. So, and that's the language that Ifa has used for those kind of people. An Ifa Orisha practitioner must honor patents, copyrights, and all forms of intellectual property. A practitioner must not convert another person's work into their own. Practitioners are expected to be aware of and respect cultural, individual, and role differences, including those based on age, gender, race, ethnicity, culture, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, disability, language, and socio-economic status. So this principle also reflects non-discrimination and tolerance. If you are a good devotee of Ifa and Orisha, you must show tolerance. You must be able to tolerate other people, because no man is an island. You are not the only person in this world or in the community, and you must, understand that everybody is unique. We are unique in the way we react to issues, in the way we respond to things in the environment. So you need to cultivate that habit of tolerance and non-discrimination. Practitioners must avoid discrimination against colleagues in the practice of Ifa based on sex, which is either male or female, ethnicity, or race. They must be willing to tolerate, respect, and allow others to air their views or express their feelings in a way and or on any issue. So those are the four general principles of Ifa and Orisha practice. So now let us go to ethical standards that I said that they are enforceable. Ethical standards represent specific or enforceable behavioral rules of conduct expected of Ifa and Orisha devotees and practitioners in accordance with all the principles. The ethical standards are enforceable, and an erring Ifa Orisha devotee or practitioner will be sanctioned and made to face the consequences of their actions. So we have a series of standards. So I'm going to start from number 1, which is resolving ethical issues. When ethical violation by another practitioner occurs, members in the same professional practice are in the best position to recognize the violation and select a course of action that could ameliorate harm or prevent further violations. So it is the people within your community or within the practice that should be able to recognize if any violation has occurred, and when that happens, you need to now take it to the appropriate quarters so that such a thing will not repeat itself. In an apparent ethical violation, or if an apparent ethical violation has substantially harmed or is likely to substantially harm a client or organizations and cannot be appropriately resolved, or the violator refuses to change after being cautioned by other members or colleagues, practitioners can take further action appropriate to the situation. Such action might include referral to the temple, shrine, congress, or association under which the erring practitioner or devotee practices, or state or national disciplinary committees for necessary action. So which means that you will see that in the constitution of Icios we have some committees, standing committees, which also include disciplinary committees to take care of issues like this. So there is nothing wrong in you also establishing that either in your temple, in your shrine, or wherever you are. So when that happens, that matter will be referred to that shrine for them to take disciplinary action. But if in a situation that it cannot be resolved, then it can be referred to the national body. Or there may also be issues between one shrine and the other. Of course, that matter also can be referred to the national body. The second, boundaries of competence. IFA and Orisha devotees are expected to maintain professional boundaries between spiritual leaders, clients, and followers. This means that practitioners must provide religious or spiritual services in areas only within the boundaries of their competence, based on their education, training, supervised experience, consultation, or professional experience. These I have also mentioned before. If you know that you are not competent in a particular field, don't go into it, because there may be repercussions not only for you but for the client, himself. So, for example, a Babalawo must always strive to reach out to other competent Orisha priests or priestesses for more detailed and deeply rooted Orisha rites and rituals to ensure correctness and competence in performing the rituals for a client. So if you do a divination and then Ifa says that this person needs to be initiated into a particular Orisha, and you don't have the knowledge of that, it is now for you to refer or invite that Orisha priest or priestess to now be able to handle that situation, or to assist you in doing that, because there are some deeply rooted rites in specific Orisha practice that you may not be privy to. So Ifa is advising that you as the Babalawo should be able to engage the assistance of that Orisha. You cannot say because, it's Orisha, is this, is that. No. Ifa is saying that you must maintain your boundary of competence. So this applies to Orisha devotees as well. In a situation where work and rituals are concerned, I have seen or heard about some Orisha people, priests and priestesses who, handle certain rites or rituals that, do not even, concern them. Sometimes some of them even go as far as even initiating people into Ifa, which is very wrong. So we are expected to maintain boundaries of our competence. So then, third, human relations. Practitioners must maintain good human relations, especially with their clients. Practitioners do not engage in sexual harassment. In this ethical standard, sexual harassment is sexual solicitation, physical advances, or verbal sexual conduct that occurs in connection with the practitioner's activities or roles as a Babalawo, Babalorisha, Yanifa, Yalawo, or Yalorisha. And then again, because these are all issues that we have really identified, because there are some Babalawos that take advantage of certain situations. I have seen on Facebook somebody writing that when a Babalawo casts Ifa for a woman and tells you that you are Iyawo Ifa or you are Babalawo's wife, that is a red flag. I said it is no. It is no. You see, the fact that some Babalawos abuse that opportunity does not mean that that is how it's supposed to be. Even when Ifa sees a woman as Iyawofa, or that the person should be married to a Babalawo, there must be a purpose for that, for Ifa to say that. And that also does not mean that it is that Babalawo that must marry the woman. So we're trying to say that the woman is your client. You cannot, under any circumstances, now start to make advances or now to do something that will now make the woman to be, to now engage in sexual relationships with that woman. It is very wrong. Ifa, there are instances whereby Ifa has said that this woman should be married to Babalawo, either for childbearing issues or either as a result of disease. This is one of these two. These would be childbearing and disease issues are the most common reasons why, but because in the course of, if that woman is married to a Babalawo, in the course of periodic consultations and offering ebo, messages will be revealed that will direct that Babalawo to solving that woman's problem. Or sometimes they may ask the woman to go and initiate the Ifa or to have a hand of Ifa when Ifa says you are Yahufa. But there are some Babalawos, because there are some women that I've seen those women that will say that, okay, Ifa says that I should marry a Babalawo. I don't know any Babalawo. Who am I? Am I going to go on the radio, on television and start announcing? No. What they normally do in that regard, that Babalawo may know other Babalawos around that are single or whatever, or some of his Omwawu. They will now use Ifa to check who the woman should marry, but not the Babalawo himself, because that's a conflict of interest there. So under these human relations, sexual harassment can consist of a single intense or severe act of multiple persistent or pervasive acts. Also, practitioners do not knowingly engage in behavior that is harassing or demeaning to people with whom they interact in the course of their practice. Under this standard, practitioners need to take reasonable steps to avoid harming their clients and others with whom they work, and to minimize harm where it is foreseeable and avoidable. I mean, if somebody has come to you for divination, the person has a problem and you need to provide the solution. If you cannot provide the solution, there is no point for you to add to the problem of that person. So that is what Ifa is saying, that you must at all costs avoid harming the clients under any circumstances. When indicated and professionally appropriate, practitioners cooperate with their colleagues to serve their clients effectively and appropriately, which is what I have said before. If a house has a client, it happens like that to us. There are some issues that are, maybe, difficult to resolve. Then I'll call my colleague, who is a Babalawo. I'm having this challenge. I have a client that has this. What do you think? This is the audio that was cast. And this is about what do you think I can do, or what do you know with regard to that audio that was revealed? So that colleague may know about it, may not know. You understand? So by so doing, you are also helping the client to solve the problem. So that's what they are saying, that we have to cooperate with our colleagues to serve our clients effectively and appropriately. The fourth one is privacy and confidentiality, which I have mentioned in the course of my discussion. Practitioners have a primary obligation to maintain confidentiality. They must take reasonable precautions to protect confidential information obtained or revealed in the course of personal divination with their clients. Then 5, that's the fifth enforceable standards. Avoidance of false or deceptive statements and display of profane pictures and videos. practitioners do not knowingly make public statements that are false, deceptive, or fraudulent concerning training, experience, practice, or other work activities, or those of persons or organizations with which they are affiliated. We have seen quite a lot of these on social media, whereby people will display certain things to tell people that they are babalawo, they are this, they can do this, they can do that. Whenever you see any babalawo advertising himself on Facebook, well, like that person said, that is a red flag. Because IFA says, we want babalawo really, babalawo ki, when that is, people come to meet babalawo at home. It is not for babalawo to now be soliciting, going out and to be advertising himself. It is ethically wrong. So when you see anybody doing this, you need to, investigate. Whenever you see anybody advertising on Facebook, you need to investigate. Is that not so? You need to investigate, or any other person that you find, and you always need to investigate anybody that professes to be a babalawo, yalorisha, or babalorisha, because ignorance is no excuse. You need, it is, the onus is on you to find out, to investigate. So you cannot now, after doing that ignorantly, and then now say that, oh, I didn't know. You are supposed to know. You are supposed to find, investigate. So that's what it means. And a practitioner must avoid any form of obscenity or profanity in IFA and Orisha shrines, temples, and other sacred places. These also include posting pictures of blood-dripping animals being sacrificed to Orishas, the performance of Eboriru, Ibo, and Ipesi in public places. This also, we are fighting this one too in Nigeria. People sacrificing dog to Ogun, you display it on social media, dripping the blood. This is profanity. It's obscene. So that's what IFA is saying, that we are still working on it, and we will try and see that we put a stop to that. IFA and Orisha rites and rituals must be held sacrosanct, and on no account must pictures of this be displayed on social media for public consumption. Some people will be feeding their ori, and they will be putting it on Facebook. These are sacred things, sacred rites. Some people will be feeding their IFA with either rooster or hen or whatever, and they'll display this on Facebook. Because these are sacred. When I'm asking, have you ever seen the religious rites in Catholic churches being posted on Facebook? You can never see. It is what is, you see, by doing that, you are reducing the value of your practice. When you make everything public, they don't have any regard for it anymore. So this is part of what we are also working on. So it's ethically wrong for one to just be displaying your sacred rites. The Orisha and other spiritual forces dwell in rivers, forests, mountains, and the earth. Practitioners do not pollute or desecrate sacred groves, rivers, and shrines. So I think this one is explicit enough. Then number 7, plagiarism. Practitioners do not present a whole or portions of another's intellectual work or data as their own, even if the other work or data source is cited occasionally. So having said all this, there are certain things in this Congress that as an organization frowns upon. I'm going to list out those things. So as members of ICIOS, I'm going to list out things that the organization frowns upon. 1, the ethical violations, like I've mentioned above, are frowned upon, since professional and spiritual misconduct by practitioners can harm clients, and the practice itself by instilling public distrust or denting our spirituality or traditional image. 2, ICIOS frowns at deceit, false accusations, slander, and evasive behavior that causes disharmony among members. 3, the Congress does not condone any form of disrespect to the elders in IFA and Orisha practice whatsoever. Then on the issue of profanity, the use of vulgar language should be seized by a good Ifa and Orisha devotees, and this shall not be tolerated within Ifa and Orisha guardians. 5, extortion. A practitioner must not collect or extort money from the client or any public member under any pretense. Also, a practitioner must avoid false prophecy or misleading spiritual counsel. Then number 6, one-man initiation. A practitioner must not single-handedly initiate people into Ifa, as the process of Ifa initiation is a life-changing one for the person to be initiated. Such initiations will be considered fake and null. Proper procedures must be strictly adhered to, and the assistance of other competent Babalawo must be sought in that regard. If we get to know that that initiation did not meet the minimum standard, then we will just put a disclaimer on the person and let the whole world or the public know that it's at their own risk if they continue to do that with that person. But somebody asked me if it's possible to do another initiation once you have done Ifa initiation before. For some reason or the other, is it advisable to, when you are with another group of people and they're asking you to go and do Ifa initiation? Is it proper? I said, no, it is not proper for one to do initiation twice. But in a situation where we have discovered that that initiation did not meet minimum standard, because there are certain things that are expected to occur in a typical Ifa initiation, though there are how do I call it, minor differences in terms of methods, approach, in the way we do initiation. There are minor differences, but then there are also other things that we look at for us to be able to confirm that this is a true initiation. But once we have discovered that it falls short of that minimum standard, then it is considered null and void. So in that case, we can advise that person to go and do the proper Ifa initiation. Then 7, the ICIOS also frowns at, like I mentioned before, frowns at sexual intimacies with current clients. Babalawos, Babalorishas, and other Ifa Orisha practitioners do not engage in sexual intimacies with their current clients. If that client, your current client, maybe after some time, unless of course the person is no longer your client, and there is no how, if you are having sexual relationships with the client, that of course, is going to impact the objectivity of the reading, because there is already conflict of interest. So there is no how you can be really objective if you have a client and you also have sexual relationships. There's no how you can be completely objective. So that is also frowned upon, because if that happens, the woman will continue to paint, bad image of the organization. Then 8, this one is interesting. Homosexuality and bestiality. Inasmuch as it deals with an individual's choice of sexual orientation.
You have to repeat what you said, homosexuality and bestiality.
Homosexuality and bestiality. Bestiality is sleeping with animals. Yeah. So inasmuch as it deals with an individual's choice of sexual orientation, practitioners are advised to abide by the tenets and proper sexual conduct. In IFA and Orisha practice, the tenets of IFA must be followed religiously without engaging in any form of sacrilege or degrading act that negates the principles of nature and natural order as created by Olodumare. Bestiality is degrading and is vehemently condemned in Ifa and Orisha practice. You see, in the case of homosexuality, for example, of course, we are all spirit beings and we are endowed with spiritual intelligence for us to be able to harness our spiritual resources around us for our personal development and so on and so forth, or how we can, be in connection with the divine. We have that intelligence, that resources in us. So everybody, either you are heterosexual, homosexual, we are all spirit beings. So what Ifa is trying to say here is for an Ifa Orisha devotee to abide by the tenets and proper sexual conduct. And it's also saying that we must not engage in any act that negates the principles of nature and natural order. So if we are talking about the principles of nature and natural order, God, as our Lord has decreed that humans must be on earth, multiply, replenish the plenitude. How do you multiply? There must be a process of procreation. And how do you engage in process of procreation? There has to be copulation between male and female. That is the natural order that is divine, that is decreed by Olodumare. And then in a situation where you do not follow that natural order, you are negating that principles, because we are supposed to sustain the continuity of life. So if we all choose to be homosexuals, how are we going to maintain the continuity of life? It's a matter of time. Human existence will be at the brink of extinction. So how can you now say, oh, it's your fundamental human rights? Yeah. You are putting humanity at risk by your act. The person who believes that he has the freedom, he has the right to go and sleep with animals, to go and do whatever he wants to do, and then you now meet with human beings again. You transfer whatever disease or whatever infection you have from that, you transfer it to an innocent person. So your own freedom or right has infringed upon another person's rights. So this is what IFA is saying, because I've seen some people who are into this practice, and they are. And then, of course, there are also some Babalaos that are known to be heterosexual, and at the same time they engage in that too. IFA frowns upon that if you're doing that because you are negating natural principles. That is what IFA says as far as that is concerned. Then 9. This is another interesting one. Conferment of bogus IFA Orisha titles is frowned upon. Titles should be limited to the awardee's area of jurisdiction only. Titles purported to cover a country or continent or the whole world are considered bogus. Practitioners are enjoined to maintain boundaries of practice as related to the conferment of chieftaincy titles. For example, the Araba or Oluawo, we know is the head of IFA practitioners. And then under that, they have titles under that IFA practice, recognized titles. We have Aragberi, who is the head of Osoyin practitioners. We have Olokmonda, or Alagba, or Yagon. Of course, they are also leaders in Egungun. We have Baba Mogba, or Onomogba, who are leaders of Shogo practice. Then we have Oluwo, or Olori Oluwo, as the head of Yogboni. We have Baba Oshun, Yeye Oshun, Logunede. They are also leaders in Oshun worship. Then we have Oluwin, or Balesu, who also is the head of the Obatala people. Then we have Ajano, who is the head of the Oro people. And then I have seen some people, not only here in Trinidad, but in America and in other parts of the diaspora. They will tell you, oh, they are chiefs. And when you ask them, what is their title? What kind of chief? They will say that, oh, I am Chief Fakunle of Shagwanas. You are mentioning your name. So you are chief of what? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Or like Awosomi saying that he's Chief Awosomi of Shagwanas. That's not a chief. It's not a title. If you want to, recognize him, you can say, okay, Chief Awosomi, the Oluwo of Shagwanas. That is a title. I've seen people, when you ask them, what is your title? They say, I am Yeye. Yeye of what? And they mention their name. It's a name that can be given to anybody. That's your name. But what is the title? You are just Yeye of what? Yeye what? The person cannot say. Some people also were initiated into Ogun, and they were given a specific name under Ogun worship. As an Ogun devotee or whatever, they have names, and they give you that name. It's just like when you go for a fire initiation, they will ask if I will give you a name. So when they give that name, and then the people who initiated you, maybe for one reason or the other, maybe for extortion, maybe for any reason, then they are telling you that they have given you a chieftain's title. And the name that was given to you by that Orisha, they now are chief. Chief so. They mention the person's name, Chief Ogun something of so. How is that a title? And these people don't know. Some people are so hungry for titles that they go to Nigeria, and when they see that they are so desperate in getting titles, they give them all kinds of bogus titles. We laugh at them in Nigeria when we hear those titles because they mean nothing. They mean nothing. Let me give you. I am. If you like, when he was introducing me, he said, "I am Oloye." Oloye means chief. Oloye Fakunle Oyesoya, the Akoda Awo of Ibeshe Kingdom. Sorry, I don't know if you get. Akoda Awo is a title under IFA practice. After Araba comes Akoda Asheda, and so on and so forth. And that title is limited to my town, Ibeshe Kingdom. I was given that title by the Oba in conjunction with the Araba of that town. So I cannot, now if I have an Omawo now, and I want to honor him with a chieftain's title in Ibeshe Kingdom, I will look for titles under Ifa hierarchy. Titles under that, then I'll give to that person, then I can say, oh, you are the Awishe Awu of Ibeshe Kingdom. So when that person comes here, the person is representing that our town in Trinidad. Some people will give titles and say, you are the Chief so, the Awishe Awu of Trinidad and Tobago. How can a town in Nigeria confer national title for somebody to cover the whole of Trinidad? I normally ask them, have they ever heard of Arab of Nigeria, Agoda of Nigeria? It's never so. It's never so. Each town, not even in a state. In Lagos State, we have several Arabas of different towns. In Oyo State, we have several Arabas. Same thing in Osun State. So how can somebody now say that he's giving you a title that will cover the whole of Trinidad and Tobago? You are Akodawo of that town in Trinidad and Tobago, not of Trinidad and Tobago. And so when they come here, they now start to lord themselves over others. And some titles too, we have some titles that are functional titles. We also have some titles that are honorary titles. And we have bogus ones, like I said. So, in the case of functional titles, there must be a specific function that that person is supposed to render or perform in that community. Like, I am the Eletu of Ojokoro land. What is the meaning of Eletu? Eletu is the one that is going to supervise, whenever a new king is supposed to be installed, I have to supervise all the rites and rituals. That's a functional title. That time, my wife was given a title, Yeye Atayeshe of Ojokoro land. That is also a functional title. What is Atayeshe? A reformer, somebody who is supposed to bring development to the town. So when I was now asking that person, that you said you are Yeye, Yeye what? Then she didn't say anything, but later then she took offense. We're just trying to tell you the truth. We're not speaking ill of anybody, but we will continue to speak the truth. Because truth is bitter. So that is, as far as that chieftaincy title is concerned, whenever you hear anybody telling you that this is a chief, investigate. So, the number 10, The Congress frowns at intoxication or disruptive behavior during secret gatherings. Number 11, ICIOS frowns at mismanagement, misappropriation, or secrecy regarding communal resources. Then 12, that also, this one too, diverging conflict. This one, it has to do with, discussing something in a shrine or temple, and then you not go and divulge that information. We found out that divulging confidential information of the client's shrine or temple to a non-member for the purpose of ridicule is frowned upon. So, in conclusion, it is necessary for a spiritual organization to have moral and ethical codes of conduct, because such codes act as both a moral compass and a structural safeguard for members, for leaders, and the community they serve. Moral and ethical conduct is a concern about something or someone other than ourselves and our own desires and self-interest. Because if you're talking about moral values, it's all about your self-interest. But when we're talking about ethical conduct, it's something that goes beyond your self-interest. It's about something or someone. Because being a member of an organization, you have to respect other people based on the ethical codes. So it's something that goes beyond personal interest. Or say, for example, you are working in any corporate organization. They also have their organizational rules and ethics. We all have our own personal values. But as long as you are working in that organization, you must submit yourself to the ethical rules if you still want to continue to work in that organization. Which means you have to put your personal values aside and then follow the organizational rule, because it's bigger than you. It concerns other things other than your self-interest. So that is something that has to do with other people's interests. Then it also has to do with the interests of society, with Olodumare's interest, and with ultimate good. So when we think ethically, we are given at least some thought to something beyond ourselves. So think good and think ethically. Aboru, Aboyi, Boshishi.
Any questions?
Aboru, Aboyi, Boshishi.
Ogbato issue.
I would like to ask, what is a good template for disciplinary action against persons in the community that may be I don't want to say guilty. Let's say there's allegation of guilt, of offense. Let's say doing false initiations or stuff like that. And what is the protocol for, one, if they are members of the organization, and two, if they are not members of the organization?
You see, first of all, if anybody violates ethics of, let's say, IFA ORISA ethics, the first thing you have to do is, if the person is a member of this organization, you have to look at what the Constitution says with regard to that conduct, and then looking at all these ethical guidelines too. And then, of course, you have to consider the laws of the land too. So you have to put all that into consideration. And then when that has been established, that this person has actually violated these rules or whatever, then the person will be referred to. You will have to find out which temple or shrine that under which the person worships. So the matter will be reported to the leaders or elders, in that temple or shrine. So then it is that temple or shrine that will now put in all this that I've mentioned into consideration and see, how they are going to mete out disciplinary, measures, on that person. And if in a situation where they cannot resolve that issue, it can be referred to the national. And in a situation where the person is not a member of the organization, what you need to do is that you will have to report to this body, to the organization, because the people seeing that person outside are not really looking at it. Whatever he does, it bounces back on the whole IFA Orisha community. So if he committed any crime or whatever, they will not say that, it's because he's not a member or it's because he's a member of ICOS. It will affect all the IFA Orisha community worldwide. So what you need to do is to report to the organization. They will do their investigation, and once that is done, of course, the person may have an oluwo or may have a temple where the person worships. The elders will approach them, and they will now table out, now present, the allegations to them, for them to now take action.
If for the sake of clarification, if they are the heads of organization, head of temples and head of organization,
they are head of temples and head of organizations. If they are head of temples, they have organizations that that they are honored. They have a higher realm, which is the organization. So the matter can be reported to them. But if the person is at the top, so what we need to do is that it may be at the top. They also have executives. They may have executives. They may have other leaders or elders, within that group. So we can approach the elders in that group and present, the case before them. So that is, so nobody is above the law, whether you are the leader or whatever. Once you have violated, you have committed violation. That is it. So.
Christian, go ahead.
Baba, in Trinidad and Tobago, I'm not sure how well that governs us. Based on practical, what happens here is that there isn't anybody or executive to oversee or put any demands or any kind of right perspective based on, let me say, our culture here. So that is very difficult to enforce. We don't have like how we have ICIOs or boards or things that anything goes in Trinidad and Tobago.
It's going to bounce back. It's going to rub on the image of the whole IFA Orisha community. So it's not, even though, yes, it's difficult, and then nobody is going to ostracize you if you are not the one. Since you are not the one that is going to level that allegation against that person, you understand? It is the body that will approach that. So, and then I think initially it may be a little bit difficult, but with consistency of purpose I think we should be able to do that. We must be able to take a step, because the journey of 1,000 miles begins, with a step. So we have to take that step, and whatever challenges we face along the way, we will find a way to, to maneuver and get through it. So it's something that is possible. I know what you mean, that everybody is their own boss here. Yes, but you are your own boss. You cannot engage in any action that will bring our community into ridicule. Even that person should be the one to be ostracized. The people should be able to come together and tell it to him and let the whole world know that this person has committed this person. You put a disclaimer on him and ostracize him. Either him or her, you ostracize them. So that is how we must be ready to take that action. And like I said, it is not like, they are going to do it individually. I know, because they may target you and say, oh, so it's you against me, you're attacking me. No, it's not like that. Once you have recognized any violation, you report to the appropriate body and leave the rest to them and let them handle it.
Baba, to add to what you just said, right, which will be the proper thing to do. But what has happened over the years is that a lot of people who are practitioners allow a lot of things to be conducted in spite of they know that it is wrong. So over the years and presently now, the IFA ORISA community, all of them, wherever they are practicing, in the wider public, they are not attractive. Because of the fact that whether you are doing something and nobody cannot speak to you, you're not doing it in isolation. So the wider population is seeing what is happening. And the people who are practitioners and think that they cannot speak the truth because you are a boss, are also enabling what has happened over the years. So the IFA community right now is not attractive. So when anything happens, you see the same people over and over. There's young people who would like to participate and young people who is interested. But when you are saying that everybody is a boss and we can't do anything, then where are we going? If it, like Uluwu always said to me, when you know better, do better. We know better, but for some reason we don't want to do better because we are in our comfort zone. And comfort is not going to allow us to move forward according to IFA ORISA standards. I am going to say that from my experiences that I appreciate your intervention here, your lectures, and trying to put some sanity to what is happening in our community right now, in the IFA ORISA community. Because it's a strong community, it's what we are, who we are, whether we like it, yes or no. But the comfort zone is what we have to move out of. Like a Baba who has since made his transition, he always say to us, you cannot play football standing on the sideline. So you cannot say I'm a practitioner in IFA ORISA, but stand on the sideline and say that this can be done and that can be done when you are not operating in isolation. The public is looking at us. The public is seeing. So you're not doing something to say cannot be changed. It's to have the will and conviction. And if we really believe in our IFA ORISA and our Orishas and Olodumare, you do what you can and you leave it up to Olodumare and Olodumare to take care of the rest, and they will. But you personally have to have the conviction and the strength to believe and trust that Olodumare would protect us as well. long as you walk on the right path, it's not easy to walk on the right path.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But within Trinidad and Tobago right now, we have reached a state in our IFA community that everybody wants to practice IFA ORISA, look good. It's about looking good, but standing on the sideline. So I really appreciate the clarification. And at the end of the day, it is still our choice. Oromela knows better, and he's watching us. Because we could stay down here and say all the nice things or whatever, but they know our heart and minds, and they see what we do. Because years ago, they had order. It had order. Some way we are along the line, we are all responsible for where we are right now. And it seems that honesty is a challenge. Truthfully, being truthful is a challenge. So when we are honest and truthful within ourselves and within our practice, I don't think there's any fear of somebody who is ahead of an organization or a shrine or whatever. If they're doing wrong, they're doing wrong. It can be one way or the other. But we continue to stand on the sideline and find excuses not to do what is the correct thing. There is nothing wrong. You gather more strength and respect when you do something right and be honest more than you follow the crowd. There's a number of people are interested in being part of the African spirituality, but we as an organization, wherever we practice in Trinidad, are not attracted to the public at all. So that is what we have to address as individuals and then as organization. Because before we get here, we walk the street. The public see us, they see how we behave, how we interact. So we also have a responsibility as individuals in the practice that we say we want to practice and the walk that we want to walk. Because it's a daily thing, it's a sacrifice, it's a discipline, it's a practice, and it is a work in progress. I am very young, very, very young in the practice of IFA ORISA, but my grounding from my parents in spirituality is why I am the way I am. But I must say for what you have been trying to do and for taking that responsibility to put some order. And as far as saying that it cannot be done, I think it could be done. But we have to have honest people with the strength and conviction to take us there.
Sure.
Thank you for that beautiful contribution. We always say something in Yoruba language that see that a country or a place where there is no constitution, then there is no crime, no sin can be committed, because it is the constitution that guides the modes of behavior, how people behave in that society. And when you don't have anything to guide them, of course it will be, everything goes. Everybody will be their own boss. And that is what has been happening, here within IFA ORISA community for so long. They do not have access to that scriptures or whatever that they can use to guide their behavior in either privately or publicly. In Christian fold, they have Bible which is available. They read that every time. In Islam, they do the same. But most of our people don't have access to this information. And then there hasn't been anything like this or any kind of guidelines to tell them, to give them either functional guidelines, operational guidelines. When something happens, who takes charge? Who does this, who does that? And how, operational guidelines, how does this person will go about doing these things? Those things are not there. How do we relate to each other? How do we know things that are good and bad? So these are the things or the information that people do not have access to for so long. That's why it has become more of an individual thing. I can do my thing the way I want. So, like you have said, yes, it still depends on their choice, but that is why we as an organization, we can start from here. Charity, they say, begins at home. Let us make effort to see what we can do, and from there, then we now start to extend, to the rest of the community. By the time they see what we do and how we go about doing things, they see how we conduct ourselves in public. It's a matter of time. Like I was telling him, I said, after some time, some people will be begging to join us, to be part of us. When they see, and when you're telling some people that what they're doing is bad, there must be a way of telling them that what they're doing, is bad. You should be able to provide explanations as to why what they're doing is bad, and then you provide alternatives to that. But all these things are absent. So that's why everything is just going on the way it's going. But there has to be a start to something, and which is what we're trying to do. So like you have said, it's nothing impossible, but we need to have that will for us to be able to do it. And I'm sure that by the time we get this thing well established, I'm sure that we will be commended, for it. Thank you.
And then, you spoke about homosexuality going against the natural, going against nature. But what about masturbation and sex toys? Because when you at your last lecture, you said that everything has life, they say. It's not life, even in innate objects.
Yes, essence.
And so what I want to know is that toys and masturbation has been glorified, and people feel okay, that is the norm, nothing wrong with it. So I don't know if you can elaborate on that. Because if to sit down on somebody's seat, on a wife's seat, it is tantamount to sleeping with them. It just goes to show how your aura and your essence, and even what you're exposing your body to, how sacred it is. How sacred that is.
First of all, we have the right to make any choice that we want, but you're right. When you're making that decision, are you putting the people around you into consideration? Because your action or inaction has a ripple effect on the people with whom you live or you interact. That's one. You see, I've said before that homosexuality is against the principle of nature. The same way all those forms, the pornographics and then masturbation, they are all things that people do to get, kinds of sexual desire and things like that. And if you look at those things, they don't really fulfill that desire that they are actually looking for. And then the way Olodumare has made it in such a way, even having sex between husband and wife, it's not really for pleasure, it's for a purpose. It's for procreation. And anything you're doing that does not put that into consideration, you're working against nature. You're working against nature. And then you also have to ensure that what you're doing, you do not contaminate or pollute your body. Because it is this body that we always use to carry out spiritual activities. So there is that, need for us to ensure that this body is kept clean, is kept sacred. And then, because if they are telling you not to do certain things, it's for your own interest. Like if you are being advised not to kill somebody, it's human beings like you that are going to kill. If God says don't kill, you are not going. It's not God does not have any child that you are going to kill. So whatever rules or laws or natural principles that we are being asked to imbibe, it's all for our purpose and our existence in life. What is the point of somebody, trying to either engage in using toys, sex toys, and it's also, don't forget that the society in which we live now is heavily polluted, heavily contaminated. Especially this technology, for example, has exposed people to all kinds of things. Even our children are even endangered, the way I see it, because they are also exposed to this, and most of the things they do, they learn this freely, on using all these gadgets. So we have to find a way to see how we can contribute our quota, because Olodumare says that one of the main reasons why you are on this earth, apart from sustaining that continuity of life, is for you to ensure that the way you have met this world, that by the time you are leaving this world, you live it better than you met it. So engaging in all kinds of perversions, I see them as perversions. Either you are using sex toys or masturbation, and even all the sex toys too. Sex toys, they are all perversions, just to satisfy some kinds of worldly desire or not. And you discover that they don't last long. But when you have a wife, it's that is what Ofurete says when he says that it is pleasurable and enjoyable for a man to sleep with a woman, not for a woman to sleep with a woman or a man to sleep with a man. And that Ofurete has outlined the pros and cons. What you're going to get if a woman is sleeping with another woman. What are you going to get from that? When a man it's all an unproductive venture, and then it's also riddled with all kinds of filth, all kinds of things that actually interfere with your spiritual purity. Because as a human being, there are three things that we need to consider in this in IFA ORISA spirituality: physical purity, mental purity, and then spiritual purity. Mental purity, if they are telling you to ensure that you maintain cleanliness, hygiene, and things like that, is for your own interest. It's for your own interest. Because, like I said before, it is this body that you're going to use for spiritual activities. And when you don't keep it clean, there's no how. We have seen in the stanza of Otupofu, whereby some people have been asked to go and propitiate the head of Olu. And they woke up in the morning, they didn't wash their face, they didn't take their bath, and then they were filthy, and they went to do the proposition was not accepted. The same thing, that is Edom, the first, then the second one, Hero. Hero too never maintained any cleanliness or anything. He went to do the propitiation, it was never accepted. And it was when Iki now went to a group of Babala and they told him that if you are going to do that propitiation, you must be clean, you must wash your hands, your feet, and things like that. So that goes a long way to see how, when some people are engaging in some kind of spiritual practices, they say that their prayers are not answered. That's what I'm saying. It's for our own interest. Then mental purity has to do with your thoughts, what you harbor in your mind. Because what you have in your mind, of course, is going to have considerable effect, on your activities and also spiritual purity as well, because that has to do with maintaining that spiritual balance for everything. You can be good mentally, socially, and physically. It can be good, but spiritual purity can counterbalance all the other ones. We have seen situations whereby, some people get sick, they go to the hospital and they carry out series of tests, and at the end of the day, everything came out, good. And yet, this person is still sick. He's still sick spiritually. So, it is that spiritual divination or whatever act that can be used to help find out what exactly is causing, the inability for that person to achieve harmony in life. So, like I said, all those things that you mentioned are just perversions which IFA does not subscribe to. And anybody who is engaging in that is doing so at his own risk. And then this is not a matter of whether when you die, Oludma is not going to ask you how many wives you had on earth, how many children, what kinds of sexual orientation did you practice? Is it do this? No, because all those things are meant for us here, for us to be able to live perfectly, to live in good condition on this earth. But when we get there, when we die, the only thing that is going to determine, what happens after life is the character, how you have lived a good life. Olodumare will ask you, if you kill somebody with a knife, another person kill somebody with a gun, with charm, with machete, Olodumare will not ask you, why did you kill that person with a knife or with a gun? We'll ask you, why did you kill that person? So whatever you use to carry out that action is irrelevant to God. But the most important thing is that act. Why did you kill this person? Because kill is kill. Either you use opium to kill somebody, you use gun, you use machete, you have committed the same sin. So that is what is going to determine the judgment of what happens to you. So that is as far as we have to ensure that we maintain that natural principles and natural order. That is the only way that this world can be a better place for us, because a lot of things are now upside down. They are not going the way they should. So we can start from our own little way. Let us start. Because if we are saying that we are, it's so big, for us to do, it's an excuse. But what can we do for ourselves? Let us start from home and see what we can do for ourselves. How can we bring up our children in a way that Olodumare had, outlined, or in a way that the Orishas, have really outlined for them. So, and I think if we do this in our own little way, I think, with time, it will continue to spread, and then, and when we die, we will be able to say that, yes, we did our best. Thank you.
To kind of carry on from that question, we see here in Trinidad and Tobago a few so-called leaders in the IFA ORISA community that actually sanction the homosexuality and then try to tie in our spirituality to justify it. How do we deal with that? You have men parading as women and then claiming that is manifestation.
They are not getting it right. You see, one thing I want them to know is that homosexuality is a sexual behavior. We have to know that. It's a sexual behavior that you learn from the environment. No child is born homosexual. I can say that categorically, and I'll prove it. When a child is born with a clean slate of mind. The mind is blank. It is when that child is now born and being raised in that society, the child will now start to learn the behavior in that society. For example, you have a child, a baby, between 0 and 3 months. You take the baby from Trinidad. You take it to far away in Africa or far away in Asia. When that baby grows up, gets to maturity stage, which behavior do you think that baby will learn? He will not know anything about Trinidad. Because at that point, the mind was blank. As the baby is growing up, then he will now start to learn the behavior in the environment. So which means that nobody is born homosexual. If anybody is telling you that, oh, I feel that that's the way. And when they see some Orisha people, wearing, because there are some religious or spiritual devotees where you see some men dressing, putting on women's clothes, and they are for ceremonial, purposes. You will find that after that ceremony, they don't wear that again. When you see Shango wearing skirt, do they know the reason why Shango is wearing skirt? It's for ceremonial, purposes. So for anybody now to tie down that to, our spirituality and say that, yes, Ifa has or Orisha has allowed him or her to start to practice. When Ifa is saying that you must behave and act in accordance with the principles of nature and natural order. So they are not, and then some people also, they also go to the extent of even changing their sex and say that, they don't feel comfortable in that body. They feel that their soul is trapped in that body. How did you know that your soul is trapped? You see, every human being, we are made of male and female chromosomes. So there is tendency for you to display feminine tendencies sometimes because of that female chromosomes in you. So when you display that, does that change your sex? It doesn't. Before a baby is born, when immediately conception takes place, Olodumare will assign your sex. Will assign, that is part of Anyama, which is one of the components of destiny. It is the prerogative of Olodumare to assign the sex for you. Because at that time, it was just a soul personality at that time. So when that sex is assigned to you, you will now start to go about choosing your destiny, choosing your egbe, performing all those things between, conception and birth, because a lot of things, do happen at that time. So when you now come out, you that have been assigned a female, and then you come out as a girl, it's nobody, because they are saying that these doctors that assign sex to them when they were born, that the doctors, it's not the doctors. So you now came out as a girl, and then you grow up, and for some reason or the other, due to societal influence and whatever, you now decide to change your sex. And after changing that sex, you now grow old and you die. I'm going to ask us this question. You see, this body is a garment. This body is a garment. This body is not us. This is not what makes us. We just took up this form for that soul to be able to function and perform those things perfectly on this planet Earth. That is why when we die, the body rots and so goes back, gets out of the body. Or when the body gets to a stage whereby, because the body consists of millions of cells, billions and billions of cells that are self-reproducing. They are reproducing, and that is what is responsible for our growth. And at a point in time, it will get to a stage whereby that reproducing will stop. The cells will not be able to reproduce themselves anymore. And you will now get to what they call the law of diminishing returns. That is when you now start to experience decline in terms of your physical performance, cognitive performance, or otherwise. So, at a point, this body will get too old for that soul to continue to reside. So when that happens, the soul will discard the body. And the body will rot. So the person who came as a girl with the soul personality of a girl, in what soul personality, in what sex would that person go back? When you have already discarded the body that you changed, in what soul personality, in what gender or sex would that person go back? It's the same. They are just repackaging. And it's just like if I can get another bottle, I can repackage it, put the same content. So what they are doing, the real substance is still there. They are just changing the packaging, which is this body. They are restructuring what has been structured already. They are not doing anything new. God has created this. What you're doing, you're just restructuring. It's an exercise in futility. Because at the end of the day, you're going to discard that body. So what's the point? What's the argument? That they feel that their body is trapped or their soul is not for anybody. Because I'm not going to be there when he's going to be judged. Let him continue. He's going to face the music himself. Why is it that in America now, why is it, from available studies and research, they say that most of the majority of homosexuals commit suicide at the end of the day. Majority of them, they have the highest number of the people who have HIV and all kinds of infection. So it is your choice and you have to own up to that. Whatever consequences that comes out as a result of your action or inaction, that is on you. It's nobody.
Easy, Baba, easy.
I have a question. You said that a lot of titles, so-called titles, have been given to people in Trinidad. So from that is saying that whoever was calling titles, one, he does not have the right to that. So two, because we know most Nigeria, whatever. So, they don't have the right to do that. And they keep coming to Trinidad and doing it. And please don't tell me about ignorance is
It's no excuse. No.
right. So, knowing that you've been here now in ICO IOS, and you know this. What is that? Okay, we. And you as the international president, and you know about this now. When you go back to wherever your tongue is that you have authority, you say your name have authority in that tongue. Right? When you go back, will you be, well, I don't know if you will know about the whoever coming, but will you be able to report or give a statement on these people? Because that is really rough. We don't have people, they're giving people titles, and it's not void and people is paying the money for it. People is paid for that in Trinidad. I don't know it, that time we traumatized right now that I don't want to know any change, but nobody right now. Because it's not even only on being ignorant. It's not only being ignorant. Because as I say, a lot of them advertising and some advertisements looking authentic. Looking authentic. You know, if I have access into Orisha thing, worship, and I see on Facebook, I'm advertising baths and special on baths and discount on baths. For Mother's Day. But I know that you have that. I want to know what point, what would you take, what
Proceedings.
and you would take, or what procedure that you would take, knowing that you are the president of the ICIS when you leave here? Should I ask you?
Thank you. You see, first of all, that's the reason why we are having this gathering to enlighten each other, as to to let us know more about those things that have remained unknown or mysterious or somehow for so long. You see, as far as the titles are concerned, we are not saying that, of course, like, say for example, I, as a Babylon, I have a title there, and I cannot come here and start awarding titles. You understand? Because I represent that kingdom there. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
Before I can do that, I will seek the permission of the king and the Araba.
So, Baba, let's take a plane right there, right? So you come to Trinidad and you initiating me. Yeah, Amoy, as I was saying from now until. But you know, you do not have that authority. And you're still doing it because of the love of money. But my question is, what will you do when you go back with all this information that we are complying
That
with?
is why I said that when you recognize or identify such a person who has done that you need to report. If the person belongs to this organization, you report to the appropriate authority in this organization. If the person belongs to another organization and you are in this, you still need to report to this organization first. And this organization will now do the investigation. Once they see that it's right, they will now approach the body under which that person is and then try to present that allegation. And then if in a situation whereby that organizations are not ready to take any disciplinary action against that person, then we have the right to put a disclaimer, to present, whatever facts that we have, to put it for public notice that this is what this person is doing. And once we know that we have our facts, and I don't think they can dispute that. So you are not the one that will do that, personally. You let the organization handles that. And then it's just so unfortunate. That's why we are having this moral and ethical conduct as a way of guiding us, as a way of letting us know what is right and what is wrong as far as this spirituality is concerned. Now that you now know now. So if anybody does that, you know that this person has acted unethically, and then you have to take the necessary action against that person. In Nigeria too, when we get there, we are also doing our best to make sure that we sanitize. It's not going to be an easy thing, but then we will continue to do what we have to do. Like I said before, anybody, even if that person does not belong to any organizations, as long as they know the person as an IFA ORISA devotee, if he does anything wrong, the consequences, the way the public will look at us, because they have considered that person as part of us, and they will now use that to generalize and think that is the way everybody behaves in this community. So that's why we need to take drastic action when that happens. You see, that has been going on because, like I said, there wasn't anything like modus operandi, no ethical guidelines before. That's why anybody can feel that yes, I can do anything that I want, I'm my boss, because they are raising any laid down principles to guide their behavior. But now we are saying, now we have it, and we want to try as much as possible to make people aware of this. You can never confront them and ask questions based on what we have just told you now. You ask questions, you confront them, and you will just discover that they may not be able to answer those questions. So that is
So now we have to ensure that persons literally seek the protection of the Icios in terms of getting authentic Babalaos and spiritual care from the brothers that have to be affiliated with the I.
No, it's like this. Even when you come across any Babalao, regardless of where the person belongs, regardless of the person's group or organization, you can still approach those within the organization to help you, or you can even, if the person comes from Nigeria, or the person, somebody refers to somebody in Nigeria to you, you can either ask your organization or ask us in Nigeria to help you do a search on that person. And we will do it. It's not, and if we find out that the person is credible, we'll say, go ahead with him and do the initiation. But, the moment we find any kind of discrepancy in that person's, behavior, or, there are some of them that are actually real Babalaos. But because of greed and, and their self-centeredness, they have now put money above everything. And as a result, they are not able to now do what they're supposed to do. Some people will collect money and then, people in Nigeria, people send me money from diaspora for me to do something for them spiritually. Some don't even care if I do a video recording and say they don't care. They have that trust in me for sending that money. So it's now left for you as a Babala to make sure that you don't betray that trust. And if you do that, of course that person cannot see you. IFA sees you. And I'm telling you, by the time IFA is going to remove that money involuntarily from you, it's going to be in multiple folds. That is it. It's just garbage in, garbage out. IFA, what you do, is what you get. There's no doubt about that. With every action, there is a reaction.
Okay, so it's after 10, but I would like, before we come to a conclusion of things, I would like Olowo Ifakorede, if he has any questions. I see he's writing, and when he starts, sunrise might come, but it will be
you may have contribution or addition.
Addition, yes. Or contribution or addition to what has been discussed. There are those who may know, those who may not know. In a few hours, Baba would have to go to catch his plane to head back out. So, our plan was to have some ACBs, but right? But I know he would want to take a little rest before he sits in a plane. But although it would be missive of me not to ask you to say a few words.
Once again, the best among us are those who behave the best.
I don't want you to strain your voice.
Thank you.
I needed to sing after.
Abu Ramwe, the best among us are those who behave the best. This was said by I and others 27 years ago by Olowo Ifayomi. He was the person who started initiated people in Trinidad and so on, in a particular way. And I've never forgotten that. The best among us who behave the best. We must all try to be the best. It is not like crab in a barrel, climbing upon to get to the top. But whatever you're doing, you try to do the best. And if each of us try to do the best in the ICIOS community, it means then that we will be the best. I'll start quickly by starting with, okay, I'll start from the bottom where I started here. On the complaints, I think the best way for us to deal with the complaint is that we, the executives, sit on it, and when we hear it, we look at it at different points, we hear all the facts, and then we must say, okay, this one we think is to go up to the president, depending on what it is. So we say we must let the president get this one, and then he might say, okay, just leave it to rest. Or he may say, okay, I will address it up here. We might decide, okay, we will do a release. Not pointing finger to anybody, but a disclaimer. So people could read that and know, okay, if anybody doing it and they call themselves IFA ORISA practitioners, there is a body chapter here says that that is not the practice. So I think that might work a kind of way. On the homosexuality, three people who are sitting here tonight, our Sami, Komi and myself, we actually were thrown out of chat because in our limited way, understanding, we were using some of the verses to the best of our understanding and the authority to say we don't think that should take place or not. Because there was an individual in particular who claimed that the hardest workers on his compound are the gays. And that same man, on many occasions, he was well decorated in Nigeria, even by one of the elders who did make mention when he came to Trinidad that he found out that is his lifestyle. He took him to places to be decorated, the titles. You know? We know that people can change. IFA says that when we were kicked out, I was asked on the chat if I will initiate a gay person. And of course, for a while, because I want to get the attention of everyone. And I said, what IFA says? IFA says that if you have a child in your house who is practicing same-gender relationships, and you speak to him or her about it, and he or she does not want to correct it, you must put him out or her out. I say, however, if a person who practices that lifestyle goes to the priest and asks to be initiated, and the priest lets the person know that, and the person decides that he or she will change that lifestyle, you should initiate the person. Whatever he or she does after is their business. You know, because I remembered when Ogun was experiencing a lot of problems. He was living in poverty. And his heavenly partner told him, go to be initiated into IFA. And when he approached Urmila, of course, as Urmila looked upon him, he saw that he would be ungrateful. Because when you initiate a person, although the initiation deals with the person himself or herself, because it could be garbage in, garbage out. It could go in as garbage into the grove and come out with garbage. You know, but you also will get a certain amount of energy. You move to a certain level in IFA. So Urmila knows that he will have empowered him when he took that initiation. And Urmila refused. Of course, it always reaches the Uludumare, who summoned Urmila and inquired of him. And when he told him that, he said, go and initiate him. And it wasn't too long after, 6 days in the grove, he heard of war taking place. And he said, well, as the god of war, I have to go and lead the troops. He said, I'm going to beat them into submission. And so on. He knew because of his power. And after he returned home with the spoils and captors, slaves and so on, and he sat there and just replay the battle, he realized, but wait, all Urmila did was initiate me and acquired so much power. Rather than do the best thing, which will marry to him in the end, when he summoned him eventually, he decided to send troops to kill Urmila. To make the story short, it didn't take place, of course. Urmila is always ahead, which gave us as IFA, devotees, initiates, it gave us advantages to always be ahead. That is one of that advantage. He was unsuccessful, and so on and so on. So we have to look at it at different angles. However, we have had people going, and they come back with titles. And we have, in fact, for years, we have had people wearing name tags, which say that he is only whatever from wherever, But I always treat it as if the person lost, we know where. Okay? And we have had where those who know better took some time to explain, break it down, and they still will not accept it because they tell the greatness of people standing tall or bowing when they see them coming. But anyway, I just want to be there. So, but the point is, we must do just what we have to do with the best, and people will come along. You know, sex without marriage. You know, we have to also be acquainted with that, because sometimes, you know, with the wives, because sometimes we have to look at the fact that what IFA says. Baba already explained that in the IFA culture, sex is considered one of the means of ensuring that we always have human beings. Unlike the entertainment side, okay, whatever, you know, and in so doing, IFA also give guidelines about sexual position. So even when we take our initiation, we expect that the priest will guide us as to how to be devotees. So even leading up to the marriage, when we go before the priest and said, people will tell us through the priest whether or not if that marriage should take place. And, you know, if the marriage should take place. So, and then of course, the priest should also guide us. No, there's no shame in this. So now that you're going to get married, remember sexual positions and so on, and do and don'ts, so that when pregnancy takes place, it will start with the blessings of who is married, and not some energies, some Orisha or divinities pulling back the blessings. Because you might decide to go on the ground, make it ground on the earth, or you might decide to be standing when she becomes pregnant and so on. And of course, the priest from the cradle to the grave. So the priest could guide you along, do and don'ts while she is pregnant, when the baby is born, and through the different stages of life. Even when you become bigger the age, so you know, because some of us treat that every person who over 50, 60, 70, you know, we call them elders. Your elder is a person 1 second older than you. But when you reach a certain age, you know, we still there closer to the spiritual world. So even the priest have to help you in preparing yourself for the life after, for going home. Okay, so, and then with coming back to the sexual part of it, out of marriage, we can also, if we're not guided, accumulate a lot of negativity. If you go with the wrong person, and if you have another wife, and you didn't speak with your elder to see if IFA permits it and do the right thing, sometimes somebody might get sick. In the case of the Ulu Oiku Rusu, there was a lady by the name of Sibilu who was very beautiful, and she had a lot of men, but she decided to marry, and she had a beautiful daughter. And one day she saw a fellow like me, handsome, and she wanted to get at me. Well, I got away. The fellow eventually gave up his position, and they used to meet in a piece of forest. And to make it short, the husband, good friends saw them. He was hiding, and I could imagine what went through. Anyway, to make it short, the minute she started that, the child got sick. And when she went to the Babalawo told her what offering must be made, and included in the offering is that she and the man must go to her husband and confess. And it turned out that the man and her decided, with his suggestion, it's better the child die. So sometimes our action might be such that it could affect you know, and so on. So we also have to be guided with that. On the, I run out quick because we want to go and sleep. Really? Right, Baba, on the animal to be slaughtered. You said that it has been practiced that many times they take they remove the hair, so we say they put some of the ash and they put it on the elbow, and then we put it in the back, and then sometimes, multiple times, it might be restored. There are some priests who take it that IFA says not to slaughter.
Not to.
Slaughter it. And some priests will say that.
Yes, yes. Yes, sometimes if I may say that, this animal must not be slaughtered. But you have taken the ashe from that animal, you added it to the ego. So when that ego goes to wherever quarters, wherever it's going, the divinities are seeing those feathers as whole chickens or the hair as whole, animals. So those animals that are not killed, sometimes if I may say, okay, in this order, you need to feed Icios. You need to feed Ogun. You take from that animal to feed Ogun for that person. The remaining animals is for the Babalawo, is part of his proceeds. Yes. So he will now, at his discretion, was in Nigeria, that's what we use to, you can even kill it, not for the airborne. After the airborne, you kill it and you share, you distribute to people. Or you cook it, and when, guests or visitors come, you use that as our visitors. That's your process as Babalawo. It's not for you to now use that because the image of that person is registered on those animals. So if you now use it for another person, IFA will continue to see the original provider of the animals. That is why some people, they say after they offer the elbow, they are not, seeing any result, and things like, how are they going to see the result when, in Yoruba land, we normally say in Yoruba language that Egun mo walagbo, that the ancestors knows the provider of a ram. For example, we have siblings, and then they say that each of them should go and offer a ram to their dead father. And then one of them, because one of them has money, so that one has bought his own ram. And others are now saying that, oh, I thought this brother has bought a ram. We can also join with him and use the same ram, whereas they are supposed to buy one ram each. So when that ram is being offered to the ancestors knows who provides that animal. The ancestors knows. So whatever blessing goes to that person. Because if I has already told you that each of you should get a ram each. And just because somebody has got, you say, oh, we can use that, ram is ram, we can use that to cover everybody. It's not so. So we need to always be guided by all these this ethics of practice whenever we're doing it. So that, as IFA has said, that we should always aspire to do good and avoid harm, and ensure that we protect the interests of the client, because that is what you're doing as a delegate of Oromela. You are to save a soul. You are to help people. You are to mend bad head, bad ori. And if you cannot solve anybody's problem, don't add to that problem. That's what IFA is saying, and then you have to ensure that you avoid that in whatever form. So, thank you, Baba.
So, in final on that, we can take it that even if he did not slaughter it there and it becomes his, he must use it for himself.
To eat. To eat and serve guests and distribute to people around. It's not, if I say not to be slaughtered on that ebo. That's what the Ifa is saying. I don't know if you not to be slaughtered on that ebo, but after the performance of the ebo, then the Babalawo can then, what we do, we use the animals to serve people in the neighborhood. So that has gone. So it's a sign of dishonesty for another person to come. You have collected the money for that material, and then you keep that money instead of you to go and buy. You keep that money, and just because you have animals that you have used previously for another client, you take that animal to.
So the ash already gone from that animal.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
All right.
I was sure.
So, you know, I am very grateful for all this information, especially being the national president of the ICIS in Trinidad and Tobago, and knowing then that we could have the international president come and share that information with us and help us take the organization from point A to point B. Gratitude is a must. We must never take certain things for granted. I have heard of many organizations come and go, but one thing I say, anything that I am into, I always make it manifest. Olodumare is too great to make a mistake, and if Olodumare makes a mistake, who is you and I to know that a mistake was done? I have took the lantern or the torch to stand as the national president, not only for the community but the nation of Trinidad and Tobago. It is not easy because of the challenges that we may have by the miseducation and misconduct by many, and especially those who may have sit in positions of authority. They may say that I am disrespectful, I am unmannerly, but in life, there is no such thing, as Kwame Ture say, as peace. Sometimes when you say peace, it's because you're accepting what negative is being given to you. I am not here to accept it. I am not here to accept it. My great-grandfather was a fighter and he stand for truth and righteousness. So am I doing such. And if I am standing on the back of my ancestors, don't expect me to be Mr. Nice Guy. One of my elders said to me years ago, Grandmaster C.J. Black, good guys finish last. I am not here to be liked by many, or any, in fact. My duty is to uphold the mission statement of the ICIS. And if in upholding this duty, it may ruffle a few feathers, so mote it be. So, I declare and decree, whosoever, whatsoever, try to stop whatsoever is being placed, being done, shall go with everyone.
Ashe.
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 Right? So we would close off, adjourn for tonight, and we would continue as those who join the ICIS. There would be groups that would be made. There would be other lectures, even though Baba may not be in Trinidad, but virtual lectures. And even in the absence of Baba, I would also try my utmost best to do recaps of what Baba has placed in my hands and placed as the national president, to also visit more churches and re-educate. I didn't say educate, re-educate things that they can develop and grow with, because our people lacks information and who the information is coming from, and even if they have the information, what are they doing with the information that they receive? In coming on before we adjourn is something I said at Shango Nile. I said we are not here to speak ill of any owls, but speak the truth. You see, the truth will do everything else. Everything that was said today was the truth. Everything that was said today came from Icios and the principles of Icios. And if we say that we are devotees and followers of IFA, Orisa, or even of humanity, because Icios does not only govern IFA and Orisa devotees, it also governs humanity and the way that you treat the birds, the bees, the plant, your home, your wife, your children, your neighbor, even yourself. So let us learn to respect these things. Baba, I will say from the bottom of my heart, for all the time that you took, because, you know, when you mentioned to me that, you know, you said, what's that mean? You know, find out such and such and such. I said, Baba, listen, you need to come to Trinidad, come to Trinidad. With no fuss and no fizzle or no problems. And you said, okay. You said, Baba, I could come this date and that date. I said, Baba, there is not enough days. I need you to come from here to here. You answered yes. I said, don't worry. You won't come. And in the timing that you came, you fulfilled, I believe, that was destined to happen in the universe. We went to spaces that people didn't expect us to go. You went to the hills of Lavantil and you said, you know, I felt at home. Because the land of Lavantil is where the Yoruba people run to. So you felt at home. Your ancestors was there, and also our ancestors was there. That each and every one of us at that day and at that time. The video circulating all over social media. You're dancing, you hear no Orisha music, you're dancing. You know, somebody said, like the Baba catching a power and all this. You know? But all in all, I say Mudukwe. I think all of us are saying Adukwe to you, Adukwe Lopo Lopo, because we are seeing the transition and the change of things within our community. I pray that those who is in the community is hearing us, and not just hearing us but also listening to us, because hearing and listening is two different things. They are hearing and listening to do what is needed within the community. I pray Olodi Mary continue to be with you. I give thanks and praise to your ancestors. I give praise and thanks to your lineage. I give praise and thanks to your mother and your father. I give praise and thanks to your great-grandfather, your great-grandmother, your grandparents, your Olowo, your Ejobona, your Baba Ifas, even the Orisha that supports your own. I give praise and thanks, because it's without them you would not be who you are today. So may the blessings from my ancestors, from my family, from the organization, and I think I speak for all of us here that is here, our ancestors also, and also our Orishas that support us. May all the magnetism of each and every one of us blend and manifest to bring the magnitude that we want within our community, within our society, and the world at large.